every interaction you can have, you can go, how can I add a sense of increase? How can I make this person's life better? How can I kind of expand? You could do it when you order a coffee, and you practice doing that with every single interaction. And that's what gives you a vision, and vision gives you a forward momentum.
My thesis before was like, do one thing and only do one thing only, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm still doing one thing only, but I'm doing multiple things within that bracket. So we still help podcasts grow more easily, but there's different ways to do it.
I think a lot of these guys, when they start, it's like, I have to be perfect, I have to be this like polished product. And it's like, no, like show your mistakes, all of this, because it makes you relatable and it gives something people to like latch on to.
Before we start this podcast, I have one little favor to ask you. Can you please hit the subscribe button down below so we can help more people every single week? Thank you. So Tom has been working with us for the last couple of months. He says something I've been stuck in my head, which is your customers are a reflection of you. Mm-hmm. That's just been burned into my brain, dude.
Yeah. And do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
That's the thing.
Well, it depends on how you are. Like, your flaws will show up through your clients as well, but also like your strong attributes like will show up as well.
If you look at your customer base,
I'm happy with my customer base
because it's a reflection of people that were at your journey 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, or like someone like Rob, let's say, for instance, who was working in Hollister or whatever, you know, it's that who you're attracting. So Tom said it to me because our clients are generally quite old. They're guys that are like much more playing like a longer term game and so on and so forth. Like a lot of our clients, when they join, they'll say, okay, we're not looking to change vendor because we're like a vendor with them. Yeah. They're like, we're happy to, you know, if you don't blow things up, we'll be back over next year. But isn't a good reflection, because if you compare that to, let's say, Tate, his audience is a reflection of him, which can be conjured as well. You can build that.
It's interesting when you think about it.
It's playing the long-term games with long-term people, isn't it? But you've got to have a long-term offer. You've got to be invested in their growth. You've got to be invested in the... And I think that comes across in the marketing, right? Like you always say, no hacks. Forget the hacks, focus on the principles. And people, there's so many people online who want the like 0 to 10K a month, follow the simple formula, run ads, and then you know what happens. So yeah, I think that's what you've done there is your marketing message of like the infinite game. That's what I called our podcast we did together as well. Darren Lee, the infinite game. I think that comes across in your messaging really well.
You want to hear something cool?
Yeah.
So we put out like a lot of content and there's ideas and like, you know, we might think that it's valuable or not think it's valuable, but I think we're both in a consistent pattern of like releasing. I was on a podcast with a guy yesterday. I was on his show. Guy's like 21, 22, has been in the YouTube game since he was 13, like faces YouTube channels. And he knew all of those triggers about my content, about like playing an infinite game, thinking for a long-term horizon. It's not about like today and making the money today. And he was building out those processes like someone who's 19, 20, 21. And now at 22, he had like a massive content business and everything. So it's like the stuff that you say actually fucking does have an impact. Yeah. And you could take that the right way or the wrong way.
Yeah, I definitely didn't used to think about what I was saying or what was coming out my mouth, and I would just I would just say it. And now I realize that it does have an impact, and people listen to what I'm saying and sometimes take my advice. So I have to be a little bit more careful with what comes out of my mouth. But that's why I always tell people that it's always just my opinion and from my own experience, and I don't tell people to do exactly what I do or I did this and you should do it too. I say, I did this and this is what I learned and this is what I experienced. And if you want to follow a similar path or go down a similar route, then you could also take note of what I'm saying and try and go and pursue it in your own fashion, I guess.
Is there anything you would go back on something that you said? Just in general, it doesn't have to be something crazy.
Nah, not recently. I'm sure I've said some stupid shit. Like,
structurally, like
I was telling Tom about this, like Mike's recent Marbella vlog that we did. It was me and Mike just being boisterous and being friendly and being funny. And our humor is very dry and very sarcastic. And like, again, I have a Latina girlfriend. And I also think like a lot of people in Europe don't get English sarcasm. Like they just don't understand. Like I'll be joking with everyone, like the barista at Starbucks. If we're gonna play golf, I'll joke with like the pro in the golf club, and like I'll be joking with everyone at every point, just because I like to see how they react to it. But Mike's videographer videoed this for basically a week and then posted the vlog. But everyone hated me and Mike so much, but they don't understand that that's just our humor. Like we were saying things that we knew would trigger people, but we even said in the video, oh, let's try and trigger as many people as we can in this video. And I don't know, I think you just have to take some things with a pinch of salt and have to realize like not everything that comes out of my mouth I'm being fully serious. That's why when we have these nice conversations, I always tell people to like, I don't want to come across super serious because the majority of the time I'm not being fully serious. I think you should have fun with whatever you're doing and actually enjoy it.
Dude, that's why I love your stuff so much though, because you really do enjoy what you're putting out. You know, I think there is, as you mentioned, but there's a lot of seriousness. And there's a time to be serious when you're doing things, especially when people are paying you. But how do you balance that like entertainment and education to get people to take you seriously, but not take yourself too seriously?
I think you have to get the results for yourself first. And I think it's a good question. Again, now that the Creator Club has 120 members,
Crazy.
Yeah, it's literally insane.
What were you on when you left here last time?
I had 5 or 6, like on the monthly membership.
Yeah.
So in 3 months, I got 120 members, and like the last month, 60 members, which is crazy.
MRR, baby.
But again, like I want to talk about this with you too, because I haven't quite worked out exactly why it's snowballed so massively. And like you two are a lot more business savvy than me. I just like to have fun, and I like to help people. That's the main thing. One thing that's been a bit overwhelming is that I give everyone my personal WhatsApp. So everyone directly contacts me. And I tell everyone 1,000,000 times, please write it in the group, because I can't, like, I will always reply to someone. Like, it might take a week, but I'll always get back to someone. I can't leave people unread because it just hurts my heart. So I'm emotionally invested in everyone, which again, this is something that I want to talk about. I want to basically understand now how I can keep track of everyone, and I want everyone to get results. And I want everyone to do well, and I want everyone to feel like I care about them, because I genuinely do, but I just need to make sure that they get the attention that they deserve, which is now very difficult with 120 people, but I'm kind of trying to figure all this out.
I know exactly what you're going to say before you say it.
Raise your prices.
Raise the prices.
Yeah.
It's access.
Yeah.
So if you're doing like a done for you offer, so let's say, for instance, if you're helping people build a videography business, a freelance business, whatever, you're holding their hand and you're like, this is your VSL, this is your landing page, this is how you get clients. They would pay you more, okay? I know that's not what you want to do, but that's when you'd have less clients and then higher prices. But what you're doing, you need to have like a hybrid offer, which I learned from James Kemp. I'll always specify whenever I learn something from someone. So you have that community, which runs async. You could almost have an offer where people just join your community, because we're building, we've built the community. So in theory, someone could pay, let's say $100 a month, and they just get access to the community. But at the same time, you get access to the community and a private group within the community for $300 or $400 a month. And in that, there's like 6 people. And then you could have another tier, which is one-to-one access to you. Not like super one-to-one calls, but just a bit more access. And that could be like $1,000 a month. Now, it's like choose your own adventure. People will pick where they want to be in there. They'll ascend and descend. But the way you control the flow is by telling people that, look, this isn't a hostage situation. You can leave whenever you want. But if you leave, you can't come back for a year. And the reason why you do that is because it makes it much more like a club. When you sign up to the country club, you sign up to it. But when you leave, you can't come back for a while. And the reason why we have this is because then you give people better levels of attention in the group. Because you say, I can't message 120 people in WhatsApp, but what I can do within the inner circle is give you much more personalized review.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it's really good to prove that you have a business, which is what you do. You have people that get results, fuck with you, the brand's good, the product's good, and now it's time to stretch the gap between each of them. Because literally one of the guys in our program, he's creating something very similar to you, and the gap isn't big enough between the jumps. So why would you pay $1,000 a month when I can get access to you on WhatsApp for $100 a month?
It's true.
So there needs to be that gap. And dude, like that's just, it's not a negative thing. It actually improves the offer from an authority perspective, but then it gives them more empathy as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, I can give you a more custom attention, but I don't have 28 hours in the day, I have 24.
Yeah. And just to be completely transparent as well, like a lot of people are like, I've had so many messages recently from other influencers being like, oh, congrats, seeing you killing it with the community. And like, they think that I've just done that in 3 months. But what they don't realize is that I already had the Creator Club for 2 years before that. And before that, I actually just found it on Facebook. I logged in the other day and I had 2 communities on Facebook, a run community and also a content creation community, which had 1.5K members. And I set those up during coronavirus so everyone could kind of talk and chat when everyone was feeling quite lonely. And again, this is something that I've been doing since I first downloaded Instagram, is speaking to strangers on Instagram who are interested in photography, videography, fitness, running, whoever. A lot of my very close friends and best friends have been people who I was talking to on Instagram who I had never met in real life. But I just had something in common. I just needed to talk to people who wanted to go down the same route as what I did, which is photography, videography, content creation, because none of my close friends from my hometown had any interest in what I was interested in.
So the reason why you're successful with this is because you're much more focused on the outcome for the individual versus the outcome for you. But now it's like you just need to almost like focus on like the economics a small bit, but you're getting these such good results, whereas most entrepreneurs get in the space to make 10K online and they don't give a fuck about their customers. And that's why there's a bad attitude towards community, courses, coaching. There's a bad attitude towards any business model.
Yeah.
But you are much more empathetic, which you have that. And now it's about adding in that layers of access. So my question for you on that is, how did you build such an engaged community of guys that vibe and with each other?
Well, this is another thing as well. Like, I've always been the one, if I go on any of my group chats, the majority are like group chats for anything, for Ibiza, for run clubs, for getting a dinner together, eating a steak together, going for breakfast. I'm the admin.
Sick.
So I love putting people together. Like, that's one thing that I think that I'm actually really good at. Even on my birthday in Ibiza, I brought all my friends from all over the world together and everyone connected. And now I can see them all going on little side quests to meet each other because they met at my birthday. And I feel like that's one thing that I'm always been good at doing, is bringing the right people and putting them together in the same room or at the same dinner table. And now with the Creator Club, I feel like this is my kind of way to monetize it. But again, like I said, I'm not super money driven. I just feel like I like people. I like helping people. Yeah. And I also like being in groups of people. Like Tom was, this morning we had a little run club. I literally posted about it yesterday. We had 10 people and I was telling Tom this morning, like, I literally get energy from everyone being together. And everyone, like, we ran the 5K and it just didn't feel like we'd been for a run because everyone's just chatting the whole time. So again, this, like, another thing which is just crazy is Joel's helped me with this. Joel's doing like the back end. So the website, just making sure everything's running smoothly. And I can tell Joel, like, bro, I can literally just go in my Instagram DMs and like, I've never made money like this before ever in my life, just to be clear. I used to get brand deal sponsorships, which was still good money, but nothing like this. And I can say to Joel, like, literally give me 2 or 3 hours and I can make $1,000, like, or $1,500 just from talking to my followers in my DMs. They're all warm leads. And I don't know anything about sales. I just know how to talk to people and help people basically with the same struggles that I had when I was in their position or when I was their age. And literally, like, I have a genuine conversation. I don't let anyone go in my DMs. I don't have any appointment setters. I just have a general, typical conversation. I ask them a few questions, and within literally 10 or 15 minutes, they join the Creator Club. And again, people have to join for a minimum of 3 months, because I don't want someone to come in. Every Zoom call that we do, the educational Zoom calls are recorded each week. I don't want someone to come in for a month, pay the minimum price, 100 quid, take all of the information, see everything, see what I'm doing, and then go and, like, even if someone does try and copy it, I'm pretty confident they're not going to be able to create what I have.
You can't copy the nuance.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
So I'm not really worried about people trying to steal this stuff, but I don't want someone to come in, add them to the WhatsApp group. Everyone says, hello, welcome to the team. Everyone follows this person. They start engaging on their content. And like, we get, everyone is so like involved in each other's story, content. Like, everyone's aware of what everyone else is doing. So I don't want someone to come in, join, suck everyone's energy and then leave. So it's 3 months minimum. And now 2 weeks ago, we've hit that 3 month and we've lost one person. Everyone else has continued their memberships.
And it's a coaching element, right? Which is why Tom's come and helped and build and grow our community, right? Because your background is in teaching, right? So it's a concept of helping people with your guidance. Or you're better off to explain this more than I am. Like, how would you improve something like that and get people to become like within the 1,000 true fans. And that's where I want to take this conversation, is like how to build that loyal cult following that will not just buy from you, but on repeat come back. And that's what you've a lot of experience with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things there. And one of the things that you're doing well, clearly, is you're leveraging the law of reciprocity. And people forget this. It is a law. It's not just like a nice buzzword.
What is the law? Well, I don't even know how to say it.
So it's reciprocity.
Tough word to say, right?
So if you give out, whatever you give out will come back. And so if you give value to people, they will have to give that back to you in some way, shape or form, whether that's with attention, whether that's with their money. It is actually a law. Like, it's a universal law. Alex Hormozi's kind of made it popular. There's a great book called like Givers versus Takers versus Matchers. I can't remember what the book's called. But yeah, what you're doing in your DM appointment setting, what you're doing is you leveraging the law of reciprocity there. You're coaching people for free. And that's actually like the best sales process. The way I view sales is like, okay, let's start coaching. And you're helping them. It's like, I'm going to help you to see if this is going to work for you, to see if we can solve your problem. And you kind of coach them through any limiting beliefs, and you kind of view sales in that way, which is what you're doing.
And there's also, there's a lot of people who I talk to, and I can tell immediately, like, not don't waste my time, but I don't think you're ready to join yet.
Yeah.
I know when someone literally within the first couple of questions is going to be a good person to join, or whether they're going to join and just not be active, not show up to the calls, not write in the group, and in which case they're a wasted member. They're going to waste their money. Maybe once they've joined for 3 months, they're going to maybe then resent me that they paid me 300 quid or whatever for 3 months, and it's all down to them. They have to just show up. But if I know that, oh, well, I'm going on holiday next week and then I'm getting my teeth done like in 2 weeks, I always just know when someone's not going to be the right type of member.
So it's important to understand what you're for, and it's also important to know what you're not for. So like we're not for people that are into the hacks, the tricks, going super viral. Like, we're not for that. We're for people who are building creator businesses, entrepreneur businesses on the back of podcasts. And by having that as like a North Star virtue, it means when people come in, you can service them differently. They can go into the coaching program. We could help them do the whole thing, but they pick their own adventure based on that criteria. But there's another way to slice and dice that, which is like, if you want people to service more people, you could raise your prices. So I'd say 400 for, let's take your program out of it. The way ours is structured now is that it's 4K for a year access, but we can sell just the education content for, I think it's like $1,500. So people can come in, have that lower ticket approach, low ticket, whatever relative, and then they can ascend through it. So I'm really, really like focused on like an ascension model. And it's not like sleazy pushing people through a funnel. You're actually pulling people because they come in, they inquire about you. Yeah, interested, this might be cool. This might be a good fit for you. They might not respond. And then eventually when they get paid and when they're not on vacation, they'll purchase. So are you familiar with Colin Yerkison?
No.
A really big guy on Instagram. He's done like 12 million in sales from his Instagram story. And he explained this to me and it completely changed my perspective, which is most people get a lead coming in on Instagram or link or email or whatever. And when someone inquires, they're like, hey dude, how much is the program? It's $300 or whatever. Most people then, the guy will leave you on red because he's actually trying to figure shit out. But then most guys fuck it and they keep pounding him like, you ready to join, ready to join, ready to join. But what got the lead to come in was you just doing what you're best at, which is living good life, training, So when that guy comes in and he goes, you should just go back to doing what you were good at. And then you have that offer that people can come and pick their own adventure eventually. And with your pricing especially, you don't even need to speak to people. You know? Now they might want to ask one a couple of questions, but they could just come in and pick their own adventure effectively, you know?
The only benefit of actually talking to me and having the conversation with me is then I can kind of vet the members. So
For sure.
I can decide, is this someone that I want in or someone who I don't want to be in?
Could automate that.
Could automate that.
It's
And
also important to make that clear that you don't let everyone in.
Yeah.
That helps raise the standard, and people like that. Like, it kind of makes it more exclusive as well.
Yeah, because like I am very conscious of this when people say like one bad egg, like one bad person could come in and cause chaos and destroy everything.
Yeah.
Do you have rules?
I have rules, but I've never had to tell anyone the rules yet, because that's again the benefit of me talking to these people, and like, not to judge a book by its cover, but I can look at their profile and I can see, is this someone who is going to be of any value? And I can tell in the conversation by the way they're speaking. Like I'll often get them to send voice notes instead of writing everything out, and then I can pretty much tell very fast. And also another really interesting thing is that the majority, I would say 90% of the people that have joined, if I go on the message on the DM, I can see that I've already had conversations with these people over the last 5 or 6 years.
Dude, so you started out this saying that, this hasn't been a 2-month thing. It also hasn't been a 2-year thing. It's been an 8-year thing for you. From the first video of you fucking rocking around like Newcastle to now, that's the compound effect and that's the asymmetrical return. Because like everyone looks at things in isolation, like, oh, Louis in fucking Ibiza, he's in Marbella, but it's the asymmetrical return of you doing the shitty jobs, taking videos of auto dealers and real estate, bills. Now you're not activating that skill of photography anymore, but that's the brand, and that's why a brand like literally takes a lifetime to build.
Exactly, and that's one thing that I try and tell the younger guys in the group is that they're like 19, 20 and they're like racing to make money and to be successful and to like have everything that they've ever dreamed of. But I'm like, you literally just need to take it easy and be patient because you get what you deserve. And when you're 19, 20, the majority of people haven't put in the work or they haven't experienced what they need to experience to get the things that they want. So I try and tell everyone like, this is a long game, play the long game. Yeah. And it's 100% worth, like we're all older and wiser. And I think we can add more value the older and wiser we become. Yeah. Just our age adds value.
It's also, so I went back through my podcast with Luke Bellamart today. I can tell you why I did that later maybe, but I asked him, how do you build influence? And he kept saying it's self-development. And I was like, that's weird. Like, is it not just making funnels? And then I was thinking about it, and his approach was, if you're someone who's constantly elevating continuously, that you're just developing, whether it's through like fitness, running, yoga, meditation, you're elevating the standards for yourself, that like, let's say it is focused on photography or podcasting or whatever, that by virtue of extension just improves. So the fact that you're working on your diet has that impact externally. So that's where it becomes much more holistic. And this isn't like poofy. It's just like the logic of the 19-year-old. Why does no one buy the 19-year-old stuff? It's because he hasn't done all the other shit.
Exactly.
But he could be sick at what he's doing. And he's just about to break through on that asymmetrical return, And I think you're a perfect example of that, Tom, because you were a teacher, you went into the music industry, you understand the tension. That's what music is. It's a tension.
So I built a whole framework around this, and I call it like 4D consulting. And this is what I used to run and still doing with like our guys. And I built out this whole method because I wanted to kind of get it out on paper. And what I called was basically it's like a Venn diagram, and it's like brand, vision, method. So it's called the brand vision method. And then the third aspect, or the fourth aspect, outside of it is time. So each of these increase over time. What you basically want to do, and you spoke about attract to brand here, and it's all inner game work. That's the vision aspect. You have to have a vision for yourself, and it has to be clear that you're working towards that vision for yourself. And that's what creates increase, and that's what creates momentum, and that's what creates attraction. That's what draws people to you. If you read the book, Wallace D. Wattles, Science of Getting Rich, that's one of the key things he says. You have to convey a sense of increase with whatever you're doing. Does that mean your body's getting better? Does that mean like your money's going up? Whatever it is, a sense of increase. And you can practice that every day. Every interaction you can have, you can go, how can I add a sense of increase? How can I make this person's life better? How can I kind of expand? You can do it when you order a coffee. And you practice doing that with every single interaction. And that's what gives you a vision. And vision gives you a forward momentum. Vision plus a brand, that's what creates attraction. If you have a brand, you have a vision, you now have people who are attracted to you. But the last element of that is method. So you have to have a method that is proven that it works. And when you have brand with a method, that's when you have influence. And then when you have vision with method, that's when you have a business. Okay. Literally. Because it's forward momentum, taking someone from A to B. But all of those things obviously compound over time. So that really helped me. I love a Venn diagram. I know Kamala Harris had a whole meme about that, being like, I love Venn diagrams, man, but I do. But that, I used to do running that with all of my clients, and it's so good because whenever you are talking about a subject, and everyone should do this for whatever their offer is, you should get it into your pillars. and work out how they kind of interchange and have some sort of method. But whenever you're talking about something, you're like, right, guys, where does this fit into? And people are like, right, this is in the vision. So people now know, and right in the center of all of the Venn diagram is their dream outcome, right? So they now know that, okay, I'm working on my vision, I'm working on some inner game stuff, which is just like maybe even just going to the gym. I know that this is actually moving me towards my dream outcome. And then whenever you're explaining something to your members, they can clearly see how, because look, people buy on emotion, but you need to constantly resell them and like remind them like why they're doing this, and then how a bit of advice that you've given, why does that move them towards that dream outcome? So I call it like 4D consulting. So it's like the 3 pillars, and then it's like all of those expand over time. The second thing I was going to add, and I'll tell a story of when I was in education, I used to have, so yeah, be called sir, which I quite liked as well, but that's gone now.
No wonder your missus calls you that.
Yeah, no, but they, but I went to like Poundland or something, and I bought these little hats, and these little caps, they said like, I am the best, or like super cool, or something just nerdy as hell. But what I used to do is I used to have those hats in the cupboard. And you've got a big community now. What you want to do is, so like, I'll give context. If there's 30 kids in a classroom, you've got an hour, that means you have about 2 minutes per kid. What effect can you have on a kid in 2 minutes, really? And there's always a few who need more attention. Like always. So what you want to do is you want to find the Rockstar clients or the Rockstar kids, the ones who just get it, the ones who've nailed it. Cupboard would come out, hey, here's a hat. And the hat was like, I'm the best, like I'm the whatever. And then you put the hat on them and like, right, your job, you're the only ones who are allowed to move around the classroom. You're like now, whatever I used to call them. You can move around, you can help people, and they love it. So you want to leverage Rockstar clients, ones who are getting the results. You want to then make them generals, make them community leaders. Maybe they get an extra one-on-one call with you. And then the other thing with that to make that work is you have to have clear expectations and boundaries, and you have to be consistent with your expectations and boundaries. So for example, I was a super anal teacher. I was a super, like...
Love it.
I was, yeah, that's why I had to leave. But basically, so I was in like, because I did like media, did some music stuff. Basically, all the kids had wheelie chairs in my classroom because it was like there's computer desks, and by law, if you're on a computer, you have to meet certain standards. So if you're on a computer, you have to be able to swivel and you have to be able to move your chair. So by law, we have to put in swivelly chairs. The problem with teenagers and swivelly chairs is they're like, fucking race cars, great. And they're kicking each other over. So what I did my first day in that classroom, I got some duct tape and I like outlined all around where the chairs were. And I was like, and I set my expectations. When every kid walked in, I was like, nobody is ever allowed to move their chairs behind this line. And I was so consistent with it, like so consistent. And like, it was the only time I would get like pretend angry. So all of the kids would stay in one place. All the other classrooms, like they're kicking all over the place. But then when I added in that Rockstar element thing, then the kids were like, I get to kind of break the rules. I get to move around the classroom. So it made it worthwhile for them. One, they got the hats, and then also like they got to move around. So with you there, with kind of moving forward, you want to restrict access to yourself. You want to give the Rockstar clients more kind of influence, and they are like closer to you. But when people come into your program, you want to set clear expectations. I will answer questions on the weekly call.
Yeah.
Prepare your questions beforehand. That's what the weekly calls are for. If people can just get hold of you through WhatsApp, you have to, and you explain it to them. Hey, look, there's 100 people in here. If I'm replying to, let's say, even half of that every other day, I'm be honest with you, you're not going to get good advice. And there might be someone else who has the same question.
Exactly. That's the main thing that I drill into everyone is that
channeling.
Yeah, please do not ask me the same questions over and over again. All questions now. So this is a big thing that we've changed is my community's on Circle. So now we're moving everything from the WhatsApp, because problem is if someone new joins and they get added to the WhatsApp, they can't see the previous messages.
Yeah.
So now everything as of Monday is going on Circle. So any questions, any wins, anything is on Circle, and it stays there forever. And whenever someone joins, I'll send them a message saying, basically, please read this thread, this thread, and this thread, so that all the most common asked questions are answered. You don't need to ask me them time and time again. And also on Circle, it tracks everything that everyone does, and everyone's aware of this, but this then gamifies it. So people can get rewards based on engagement, based on content posted, based on anything that they do within the community, Circle rewards them. And then we have leaderboards and everything, so we can keep track of what everyone's doing. I can see when people last signed in. I can see if someone hasn't signed in for a week. I can see everything.
And you, like, a leaderboard is leadership at the end of the day, which is what you're alluding to, right? So you set the standard for who you are, your vision, what you want, but those guys are also leaders within there. And I've gone really deep down that leadership role because, like, it's important, right? Because you're leading a community of 110 people. So when you set that standard as an onboarding form, do you have course material, course content?
Yeah, they get my full course in there.
So today, there should be a new course. You know, it's updated.
Yeah.
But they should be going through that because, like, that's what we're doing. We're bringing people through a process. And now that we've moved from cohort into open coaching, you still need to go through it, right? And unless you're done for you client, because we're actually physically doing it, but that content means that, like, you're thinking through our lens. I'll give you an example. Podcasts, you can do different things. You can do different ways. We are video first, YouTube first podcasts, 100%. And by virtue of that, you have to think through this lens of video first, YouTube first podcasting. It's just what I believe in. And by doing the program, by going through everything, you're not only, like, learning what I'm thinking, but you're also going on this wavelength. So you're not asking dumb questions about shit that we don't care about. Okay? And as time goes on, when people ask you more questions, you can create content in here, on Loom, with a microphone. Like, that's what I'm doing half the time. And you add that to the program. So our program now is way bigger than it was intentionally, because I was trying to just, what I basically was doing in the beginning was, I get on a call with someone because there's a high ticket. I'm like, what are you struggling with? They'd say this. I'd write it down. They'd say, is it in the program? I'm like, yep, because I can create it. I can solve that for you. So people are on this journey. Now, what you've done really well, what people like Hamza have done really well, is they're putting people on a transformation, saying you're here, broke, lazy, fat. Over here, you're going to have an individual business. That's actually harder for us because we have some people coming in who are CEOs. Some guys are 19 years old. They're still entrepreneurs, but it's a different transformation. So it's almost like, what are the levers that you pull? So what we're pulling is, like, you build a content business, generates revenue, grows your authority, builds your network without wasting time, money, and energy. So you're doing something really good with that. But what I would say, just a bit of advice on that, is, like, when I look at your landing page, there's just a lot going on.
The landing page is honestly trash. But like, now, but this is all stuff that me and Joel,
but you figured
we
it out.
had no idea about. And, like, this is what's so crazy is when I remember I slept at Joel's the night we launched.
Yeah.
In Bali, the night we launched the membership program. And I was just up all night refreshing. Is anyone going to buy? Is anyone going to buy? And actually only one person bought, Max Croson, who works with Jack.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
But
so I was happy to get
that's
that
always
one
the case
sale.
in launch.
Exactly.
Shout out Max.
But now I don't even need we don't even use the landing page. This is the thing. Because I just send them a checkout link because it's all done in the DMs. And another thing is, you're saying about the course, but basically every Sunday morning at 10 a.m., I'll do a 1 to 2 hour call teaching something, a specific subject. And this is the thing. It's called the Creator Club, but it's very kind of wide spectrum. Like, it's self-improvement. Pretty much, like, there's so much more than just content. Because I think to be a good content creator, you need to be, like, physically in check, mentally in check. Like, you need to, everything matters. You can't just go out and make good content. Like, there's so many other things that you need to get right first. So
that's your pillars, bro.
Yeah.
Get some pillars there.
I need to do that.
Yeah.
But there's
This is
two,
all
though,
stuff
right?
this is all stuff that I need to just continue. Like, I think a lot of people think they need to have everything worked out and then they don't start.
No.
But actually what I've realized is I'm just working, like, I'm literally making notes every single day and I'm constantly asking all the members, give me feedback, give Joel feedback. I need to hear it.
But then you need to document that through a program, though. Do you get me? So you still have the weekly goals.
Yeah,
for
they're
sure.
all recorded. So they're recorded and they're titled. So it could be with a guest speaker. It could be me. So now we have 16 Zoom recordings. And if anyone asks me a question and it's been already answered in the Zoom call, which I know, I'll say, I'm not going to answer your question. You need to go and watch the Zoom call.
But this is how you increase the value, right? So, like, you do have those weekly calls and they're all documented. You can go in and check the masterclasses or the weekly live calls and so on. But you can add another layer to this, which is, like, your recorded stuff. So let's say the common questions are, like, how to get clients.
It's even basic stuff. Like, for example, if what I've been recording in Thailand now for 2 weeks, I know we can buy, like, everything on my phone. Haven't used the camera, just vlogging on my iPhone. But I can just do basic. This is what I need to do, is just give myself a little kick up the bum, sit down with a camera in somewhere like this, show people my iPhone. This is exactly how you video and take photos on your iPhone. This is how you edit it on your iPhone. These are the settings you need to use. You can use the 1x zoom, the 2x zoom, the 5x zoom, the 0.5 for a wide angle. You can press the little man at the top that puts it into sport mode.
Yeah.
And these are all little basic things that I learned so long ago that I need to start kind of reteaching and actually sitting down and filming it, because I take it for granted that I know it.
Yep.
Yeah, you always say like the curse of granted knowledge, right?
100%.
The way I like to, this was a big breakthrough for me. It was like the stuff that comes naturally to me and I'm good at and people ask me advice for. Before I used to just give it away for free because I didn't value it. And this is, you always call it curse of granted knowledge.
Justin Wells said that to me.
Yeah, and I always think it's worth looking at that for when you are starting an offer, as a lot of your guys will be starting that offer. It's like, what do people come to me and it's just natural for me to solve that problem? I'm like, almost like, yeah, just do it like this. What do you mean? That's a really good place to start, because then that's where you like hone in your expertise and and it makes, like, if you're good at something, make sure you're getting paid for it. Like,
but that's why I'm much more focused on like a program build, which is an integration of all this, right? So I think just a little bit kind of confusion there is like, you do have all the weekly calls, but then you'll also have like, let's say the mindset, all this stuff, but that's still a program that they walk through, whether it's async or whatnot too. But this is something that you constantly iterate and you build on. And the reason why you're doing this is and you're just adding in new videos every 2 weeks. They're 7 minutes, 12 minutes. But the reason why you're doing this is because that's what increases the price tag.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Because like for us, we started low ball, we sold everything, and then we built the program, and then we're adding stuff in. But I don't just add stuff in just for the sake of it. It's because the value is actually increased, as in what you get, and then effectively what you pay for too, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, we go back to the offers and stuff, and like hopefully this is really valuable for people, because like this is everything, right? This is just everything. It's like when you do have those 1,000 true fans, you can go service them differently. So you solve the same problem through a different mechanism. So like we help podcasts grow more easily, right? We can do it for you, we can do it with you, you can do it on your own. But there has to be that scaler. And that's a 2-year thing. Like we spent 2 years building one offer, and now it still breaks my heart half the time, but we're still building a new offer then as well, right? But it's in the same niche. So this is where like, you know, I asked you about what have you gone back on? I've gone kind of back on this a small bit. My thesis before was like, do one thing and only do one thing only, and that's it. Yeah. I'm still doing one thing only, but I'm doing multiple things within that bracket. So we still help podcasts grow more easily, or whatever you want to describe it. But there's different ways to do it. And the reason why I'm saying this is just because like that's how you get to a stage whereby it's much more of like a bigger brand that's not dependent on you to some degree. Yeah. And even like Joel's in the group, and maybe there's someone else that joins you to help out in the group, and so on and so forth. Because I think my situation is obviously different because we built a company and then we built this offer. Yeah. So what I was trying to do as an example, which was so easy for us to build, was the fact that I just had the people. Do you get me? Yeah. I had the infrastructure. Whereas 99% of people, and the right way to do it is to add it on over time. But this is kind of where you want to get to, which is where it becomes this 40, 50, 60K, 80K a month business.
And the thing is, I'm willing to just put my heart and soul into it. Like already, again, you're probably going to get annoyed at this or frustrated because
not at all, dude.
As the more members have came on, now that we're at 120, I basically decided last week, okay, I just want everything to be Creator Club. Yeah. So now it was only one call a week on a Sunday morning where I kind of teach. But the problem with that is, by the time I finish talking for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and I will literally just go, I'll have notes, but I just don't stop talking, because it's always something I'm passionate about, and it's always something that I'm pretty well educated on. But that means that people don't get the chance to actually talk to each other and to me. So now we have Sunday morning call, which is educational. We have Wednesday morning now. It's going to change because we've got literally people all over the world. Cool. So we have to change the times of some calls to meet some people's needs. And the Wednesday call is literally for all of us to jump onto Zoom and talk. We don't. There's nothing. There's nothing set. We just talk and ask each other questions. So what do you do? What's your business? How old are you? What experiences have you had? And
dude, I'm so happy for you.
It's just 2 hours, and then.
But think about the journey you've gone through. I didn't mean to interrupt you, right? But like you're fucking in Ibiza, just up to no good. But like that's huge, dude.
But like, I think this is also another thing as well, is like, I think me making that transformation, which I have to say, when I was in Madrid for like 3 months alone, like thinking, what am I doing? But knowing that I was sober, knowing that I was running every single day, sometimes 10K a day, going to the gym every single day, I kept asking myself, why am I doing this? What is this for? And I didn't actually know. It was only when I came to Bali and me and Joel had the idea, let's do monthly membership. I met you, and everything kind of came together. But I think a lot of people have bought into the Creator Club because they've saw my transformation over 6 months. And like, it's one thing I'm pretty proud of. I turned my life around pretty fast.
Cool, bro. Mate, we said this to you earlier as well. Like, you're completely transparent and honest. And that's so hard to do. Like, even when I'm like talking, I'm like, is that fully, like, am I in integrity there? Do I fully mean that? Or is that what I think people want to hear? And I feel like with you, we spoke about this before, it's like you're very open and you're very transparent and you share your mistakes. And there's a great quote, it's like, people want to hang on to your rough edges. That gives something for people to hang on to. If you're like smooth, and I think a lot of these guys, when they start, it's like, I have to be perfect. I have to be this like polished product. And it's like, no, like, show your mistakes, all of this, because it makes you relatable and it gives something people to like latch on to. I think that's a huge strength of yours as well.
And I think if you show vulnerability as well, other people feel more open to share their vulnerabilities and their mistakes and their problems. Like, we all fuck up. We all make mistakes. We've all done stupid shit. We all have our mistakes. And like, as long as you learn from your mistakes and don't continuously repeat them, which I did for making the same mistakes every single week for about 2 years. I think if you find a way out, then people will respect you and they'll want to hear your advice. And like, the amount of people that message me now, just that so many people struggle with alcohol, but they message me personally and be like, oh, don't share this. Like, don't tell anyone, or don't put this on your story or whatever. Like, I'm really struggling with it. And like, that's the thing. I think me sharing my journey, now I don't want to talk like I'm having a bin time, because now I've got control of my alcohol addiction. And I can just enjoy 1 beer or 2 beers. So everything's under control now. And I still love, like I said on your podcast, I love beer more than anything. And again, I just want to, I literally believe in everyone. Like, I think if you really want to do something, you can do it. And I think like just being surrounded by people like both of you, like doing that podcast in the first week I was in Bali with you, like, I think just changed my mindset even more. And I was like, fuck, I can do so much more. Like, I'm capable of so much more, and I'm actually just being lazy.
Let me ask you this. What was the experience like when you went back drinking?
I was on in Ibiza. Oh my God. Horrible.
So go through the exact, because we haven't talked about it. So you were
on Darren's last podcast, we literally talked for about an hour about going sober and how it will dramatically improve, and it 100% will change your life. I still swear 100%. By that.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a much better position where I can have a beer or 2 beers, and like, this is the thing. I was thinking about this. So I said my experience after Ibiza.
My bad. Sorry, bro. Sorry. We're talking about drugs now, so I was like, right, we'll get some nicotine in as well.
How's that nicotine go?
Yeah. I got Darren addicted to it by
Have you got any other ones?
Yeah, you want one?
Yeah, I've never had one.
Bro.
Well, let me try one.
Can I tell a story, right?
Yeah.
So basically, like,
why am I so excited?
I have an extremely addictive personality, which you may or may not know, right? So we go down to Sevilla for a company all hands. And
I'm just waiting.
So we're in Sevilla listening to Jeremy Orlander, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good vibe. And then Tom's like, oh, have you ever tried these nicotine things, right? And I'm like, no, nicotine's gay, I don't want it. And then he's like, oh, but like, Hormozy and all the guys who do it. And I'm like,
I know how to get to it.
Yeah. I'm like, well, if he's taking it, then maybe I should take it. So I was like, what's it do? And he's like, it just makes you super focused. And I was like, whatever. And I was like, give me one. He gave it to me. And about 20 minutes later, I was like, literally straight away. And I went up to Tom and I was like, dude, what the fuck was going on with this? And I had like 2 or 3 of them. And I was just so dialed into the music. I was sober, completely sober, right? Just like bopping along to nicotine. And then we came back and I was like coming down off the nicotine. And it was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And Tom was like, yeah, it's really good. I was like, yeah, it was amazing. And he was like, yeah, you should do it working. And my mind was like, wait, what? He was like, yeah, dude, like, it keeps you super focused. So I woke up the next morning, swear to God, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, where's the nicotine? Went over, took one of them.
Ransacked my nicotine.
And I wrote about 25 A4s of notes for one of our programs. And from 5 o'clock in the morning, I listened to a Svenvat set that was four hours long from like 1982 in like Berlin. And it was basically like being on drugs, effectively. And
your addiction for you there, mate.
it was super strong. And basically we ended up taking like a shit ton of the nicotine gums, whatever. And I came back home and I told Elise, I was like, Jesus Christ, listen to this. And then someone knocked on the door. And it was a Gojek driver, and I opened up the door, and Tom had sent me 2 packets of them. And I literally had them in my hand, and I was like, what am I going to do with these? And I went in, and it's been a wild journey since. So yeah, dude, they're like super, super, super strong.
They're good, mate.
So it's gonna fuck me.
You'll be sweet, bro. But they're okay. Like the snus can keep knock
The
you
snus
out.
fucks you up. Andrew Hubman swears by like he literally swears by it. Like,
Bro, it got me
he
on
loves
coffee.
them.
So I used to smash I'll be honest, 7 coffees a day. And
Dude,
that
this
got
is like my
expensive.
4th coffee, and then 2 nicotine things.
So
in the bag.
that's why I took them. Now I don't have any coffee. I have maybe 1 coffee a day, nice double espresso, and then I'll have a couple of those. I do want to leave it all because I don't want to rely on any substances really long term. For the moment, I'm busy. We're quite busy at the moment. So having 1 coffee, because I used to crash after coffee, but that's nice. 1 coffee after I've done something. We spoke about this morning. After you've done something hard, have a coffee. So I either have to do some push-ups or I have to do a run or I have to do some skipping. Then I can have the coffee so I don't just give myself the reward immediately. Have a coffee and then later in the day I'll have a couple of them. And it's helped me wean off caffeine. Because mate, you know me, I was fucking smashing. And
these
I
take
like
an
the
impact on your
V60s as
chest
well.
though, the nicotine. So I was coughing from
Excitement.
these.
Really?
Yeah, so you're gonna have fun with it. Anyway,
But
back to the alcohol. Back to the other drug.
what Tom was saying is this morning, me and Tom, I was telling Tom that after Ibiza, I did a Creator Club talk on dopamine because I researched it so heavily because I couldn't understand how I felt so bad when people talk about like an Ibiza come down where like they lie in bed and cry. I'd never ever had that in my life, but I had it this time. And it was like, I mean, 7 months, 200 days, no alcohol. And just all natural dopamine. And then I'm in Ibiza with all my best friends, close friends. Everyone's been ballers now, getting tables. And this is also another problem is that whenever you get tables, it's a terrible idea because it's just unlimited alcohol, which is never ever good for me. If you put me in an all-inclusive hotel with unlimited alcohol and beers, I'll just drink until I just
Can't anymore.
Yeah.
Literally.
So I said to myself, I had my first beer, tasted absolutely horrible, tasted like chemicals, tasted so bad, couldn't believe it. And I was like, then I had another one, didn't taste so bad. Then I had another one. And then it was just a Ibiza 3 nights in a row of just tables, bottles till 7, 8 in the morning, wake up, 12, 4 hours sleep, repeat. And everyone was going full send, Rob, Mike, everyone. And it was 3 days of chaos. On my actual birthday, I woke up, worst I've ever felt in my life. We had a yacht booked and I was like, I'm just going to go to the hospital because like my body was like overheating from inside. And I was like, I can't do this. This is a huge mistake. And then I didn't really remember anything. So like, when I'm talking now, I want this to be a lesson to everyone is don't go and do what I did, which is go from teetotal, completely sober to full send. Just don't do that. It's never ever going to end well. I didn't really remember most of my birthday until I remembered the first meal, the first dinner where I had my first beer. Other than that, I don't really remember much. I remember when we arrived in Ibiza, went to the gym, we got lunch. Everything was so nice. I was filming it all on my real camera. Everything was good. Everything was just real dopamine. And for next year, I've swore that I want my birthday to be something where we don't go to Ibiza, where we go to somewhere where we've all never been and we go and explore, we go and adventure, like we go and hike. I want everyone to get real dopamine rather than girls, nightclubs, 8 a.m. in the morning, like overindulging. Like I don't want that anymore. Like that's not,
Cheap shit.
it's not good. But Cindy had my other iPhone. So I have 2 phones. One's just for recording. Cindy had it. And Cindy recorded everything from the whole weekend. And I was scared to look at the recordings because I was just feeling so bad. I literally felt so bad. In Madrid, when I went back from Ibiza, I couldn't look at people in the eyes because I felt so bad and almost disappointed in myself. I eventually got over it. It took about 3 days. And then I looked at the footage and I was like, right, I'm going to try and make a vlog and see what we've got. And Cindy had recorded everything.
Nice.
And like there's funny moments where me and Rob are sat, we just woke up, we're sat having a beer, smoking cigarettes. I never ever smoked cigarettes.
Dude, I saw in your story.
I was like, I'm just going to put it in because this is fucking funny. Like I want to be honest. I want to show people that like, enjoy yourself as well. Like work fucking hard. Like Tim Ferriss says, have seasons in your life where you work so fucking hard. And bear in mind, after I left Bali, I went to Madrid. I got a sick apartment in Madrid. I spent a little bit more money, got the best apartment in Madrid. And I literally grinded so hard before my birthday for a month straight.
Sick.
And I enjoyed it. And when I put the vlog together, I almost had a tear in my eyes because I was like, that was actually sick.
And it's obviously a scalar, right? You don't want to go full like dumbass potato mode where you just go crazy. But you said a really good point to me in Sevilla, which was like, when I was sober, I was looking in at these people. So we went there for sunset.
Oh, if you go sober somewhere and look at drunk people, like, honestly.
But it was like, Sevilla was good because it's good music, it's outside, it's bouncy, it's not a club setting, okay?
But if you're in a club setting, bro, it's honestly like, what are these people doing to themselves?
But you made the best point, and I'm going to quote you on this, which is like, it's just a constant chase of the next thing, right? So it's like, beer, this conversation with this girl, tune, let's go listen to some music, all right, let's go take a piss, let's go get a beer. So it's like an escalation period until your body can't take any more substance.
Yeah.
And then it's just like zombie mode. But it's just like, that's what it is. Everyone is moving in that pattern. Now, I'm not judging because I literally did that for a fucking decade. But it's just interesting to observe, to be like, people are taking a break from whatever they're doing to just keep adding shit in, overindulgence, as you said, to the point that they can't do it anymore. People do this with food.
It's literally
People do it with
insane.
sex. Do you want to launch a podcast for your business, but you don't know where to start? Remove the stress, pressure, and all the overwhelm that comes with it by working with Podcast University. If you're an ambitious individual who wants to build your influence online, grow your own podcast, and also stand out from the crowd, Podcast University is for you. We help you with the strategy, equipment, the content, your guests, everything you need to create a top-tier podcast. If you want to learn more, check out Podcast University and start your podcast journey today.
It just doesn't make any sense when you actually take a step back and you look at it, and like, I'm not saying that we're better than anyone else because we've been sober or anything like that. And I was telling Tom this morning when we were running, is that one thing I really want to change is not judging people. I'll never purposely judge people, but often now that I've experienced what I have and been sober, I look at people and be like, fuck, why is he doing that? Or why is she? I wish they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
Which I also want to move away from because I don't want to judge people and be that way. But I just think everyone's life will change going sober, and I still swear by it. Yeah. And like, there is times where I said I was never going to casual drink again, but in moments where I'm excited, like I was really excited for this conversation, and the guy next door was having a beer, and I was like, fuck it. I'll just have one because I'm excited about this moment. And another situation, this nicotine's just kicking in, and now you're not going to get me off the mic. But I said I wasn't going to casual drink, but me and Cindy were in Bangkok, and I had never been, and like I felt like just so excited to like everything. I had never been to a city like Bangkok before, and then we got in a tuk-tuk, and the guy's like, oh, do you want to get beers? And then we got beers for the tuk-tuk. We're blasting our own music. We're driving around. We went to Chinatown, and like that moment was actually enhanced by the beers because it allowed me and Cindy to relax, feel more comfortable, go to the Chinatown, try different foods that maybe we wouldn't try if we were completely sober, talk, interact with people in a different way.
Exactly.
That we had slightly more confidence, but because we had one or two beers. And I think that in that moment, it enhanced the night.
You have to be honest with your relationship with it. This is where, so a lot of people say, I have a good relationship with alcohol, but sometimes they're not being honest. You might have a good relationship with it, but the real kind of honest, frank conversation you have to have with yourself is, am I using this to achieve a certain particular way in a state of feeling that could otherwise be achieved without something external? He says with nicotine like in his mouth. But that's the honest relationship, because that's when it's a vice, right? So let's say you go out every Friday and it's like, oh, it's because I want to see the boys and I want to connect with the boys. And I have a whole theory about this. I spent a lot of time around like rugby players and football players, and in Cardiff as well, there was a big kind of scene for that. And I would notice it, like Sweet Caroline would come on, it'd be 3 a.m. and like all of the rugby boys, like hands around each other. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. As men, we need an emotional release, and we're not good usually at letting that go or doing it in ways that are kind of sustainable. So that kind of the reason for kind of drinking isn't because you want to drink. The reason is that a lot of men, I believe, drink every weekend is because they need the emotional release. They need the connection. But you now use the alcohol as the tool to get to that emotional release. So the real work is, okay, can I spot somewhere I'm using alcohol or anything else in my life to get a certain inner feeling? How can I allow myself to feel that without anything external? And then that's when you start having honest, frank conversations. And then if you want a beer, it's an enhancement. If you have an honest relationship with it and you're not using it to get a certain inner state, what you then do is you can use it to enhance. So I had a chat with someone I respect a lot. And she said the same. She was like, if I want to go to Ibiza, she doesn't drink. But if I go to Ibiza, I'm going to have like a couple of whatever cocktail girly things, because that's the intent to go there is to be chaotic,
social,
and do it. But that's an honest relationship with it. But you've come to that through being sober, and that's what I say to a lot of people. In order to actually assess your relationship with alcohol, you do have to leave it behind for a little bit. You do have to do a stint sober, and then you can be honest with your relationship with it.
And I completely agree with you. And I agree with that point too. Like, if you can control it really well, I just think most people can't, right?
Most people can't. And I definitely used to be like that. But as well, also analyzing Mike, who's one of my best friends. And again, I was telling Tom this, I love psychology. I love analyzing people. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I like watching how they are. And for Mike, I genuinely think he hates alcohol. So like when he drinks, it doesn't make him have more of a good time. So like, even on his birthday, we were in Marbella, we got tables and stuff, but he didn't want to drink. And I was kind of watching him to see if it did enhance his night or if it didn't. And for some people, it doesn't enhance. For some people, it can really let them loose and they can come out of their shell. But and a lot of people use it as well and say, oh, it gives me more confidence. Being in Ibiza, I can honestly say I was way more confident being sober than drinking alcohol.
You couldn't look at people in the eyes, right? Like,
afterwards.
Yeah.
And like also just after, because I was such a lightweight, having 2 or 3 beers, stuff that was coming out my mouth was just nowhere near as well thought about before it actually left my mouth. And even the conversations that we were having, like, yes, we were being kind of degens, and it was funny, but it's also, I guess you have to allow time for both. You can't just be serious all the time, having conversations about progress and self-improvement all day, like 24/7. Like, you have to have some funny moments as well.
100%, dude.
Some friction.
And that's why, like, when we're living here, like Tom, you said to me recently about how, like, we're just living in a perpetual summer in Bali. Like, life is good, beach is fun, and so on and so forth. But I gotta tell you, like, a negative side of that. So I think, like, for me, I'm not against people drinking. I'm against me drinking. Okay? And I said to Tom before we were in Uluwatu, I just have bad tendencies. Like, I'll do bad shit if I'm left to my devices. Just the devices of life. Like, I'll drink a ton, I'll party a ton, and so on and so forth, if I'm left to my devices. And I wouldn't do it on my own, but I mean, like, with the boys, whatever. And I've never, ever wanted to drink in the past 2 years, apart from when Elise was in hospital. So I spent 3 days straight in the hospital, and I was driving home on the Friday night, and it was the first time in my life I was like, I'd love a few beers. And I was driving back the motorway on Sunset Road, and I was like, if I pulled over somewhere in Kuta, I'd rail a few beers and 20 cigarettes right now. And that's bad. Yeah. That's bad, bro.
It turns you into like base instincts. It's like food, fight, fuck. Enough alcohol and you just end up.
I think the reason why as well is because I didn't have like an outlet.
Yes.
You know, like, I couldn't speak to Elise. She's like fucking dead in a fucking bed. And then I'm running a business, running a podcast. I have like all the dogs to take care of. The house is a shit show. We're like trying to get things sorted. So like basically there's like escalated tension. And then I was driving back, and it was the first thing that came into my head. I was like, if I just got railed right now and just drank a shit ton and had 20 cigarettes, I had that inkling, and then I was like, whew. But then I've sat with that thought though.
Yep.
Instead of being like, oh, like whatever happened, I told Elise straight away. And then I've been thinking about it since, because like I've been around a lot of alcoholism for all of my life. And I've seen that when shit gets tough, people turn to alcohol. And I've seen how destructive it's been. And it's like, if you're not, basically when you're outside of your comfort zone, let's say like that instance of being in a hospital, you're outside of your comfort zone, not for progress or progressing, just because it's a stressful scenario, that's when you go back to pulling the vice card, right?
That's
because that's the outlet. But exactly, and that's a test, right?
Yeah.
So I like looking at that being like, I am a degenerate and I need to have the pillars in place, because if I don't, it's like food, right? So I have a coach, I have a meal plan, and I'm 80% effective on it for the most part, because I know that whenever we go off meals, I'll be like, I'll get a 40-inch pizza and all this kind of shit. Does that make sense? Now that's bad. And that's why I wanted to ask you about alcohol, because for me, I have like a lot of guilt and regret when I go off the path, because I know the path's the path to get to the goal, but obviously there's an anti-goal. Have you heard of anti-goals? Which is the opposite. So like, let's say if you do make $1 million a month business, but you've lost your family, friends, you're fat as fuck, and everyone hates you, you have no hair. That's an anti-goal. So on the path to the goal, which I know where the goal is, there's a lot of things pulling you off, you know?
Yeah, you have to dissolve those things. So there's anything in your subconscious will be made manifest in physical reality in order for you to deal with it. But if you know that, you can actually dissolve things internally, so you don't have to deal with them in physical reality. So this, again, it's another law of the universe. Your behavior will be a certain way if there's a subconscious belief or thing that you have that you haven't fully processed. And that behavior will have some sort of emotional charge. So the way to do this is you want to, when something comes up, like basically it's the escapism, right? It's like, this is getting difficult. Now that's coming up with the escapism there. What you want, but that has a charge to it as well. Like it's pulling you because there's some sort of energy behind it. There's a charge. What you want to do is you want to like really like, well, there's two options. One, you just let it happen and you keep doing that, and then your life will keep teaching you lessons until you learn that lesson.
That's exactly what happened to me. Literally exactly that. I just kept running away from it.
Yeah.
My landlord texted me, "Oh, you owe this money." My car being in the garage and not having any money to pay for it, and like. And I just kept drinking because I was running away from it, and it all just caught up with me. And then I was like, fuck, now I need to sort this shit out.
Yeah. But you judged it. And we spoke about this earlier and you spoke about this just now. You have to, judgment, if there's a judgment of someone else, like you said, I want to stop judging people. Hey, no one's perfect. But when you judge someone else, that's actually an internal judgment. There's something that you haven't fully processed, and there's a charge, there's an aspect of them that is reflecting back to you, something that you haven't fully processed yourself. It might not be identical. It probably isn't the same thing. Like, for example, like people, let's say I got pissed off that you're like drinking. I'm like, I'm sober, and like, Louis shouldn't be drinking. Like, what's he doing? But that points to an aspect of me that hasn't processed something. For sure. I haven't processed that people can have a healthy relationship with it. And that points to my inner work. Like all of our triggers just point back to some work that we have to do on ourselves, right? But if you can spot them like Darren did in that moment, if you can spot it and you can be like, a trigger is coming up. And then you can sit with it. And what you want to do is you want to get rid of the charge that it has. And you want to consider like all points of view. And then when you fully integrate all points of view and you have no judgment, that's when it loses its charge. And then you can actually like make a decision. But it's a big thing. It says life teaches us everything we need to know, right? It will come up in our life and we will be triggered by things, because that points to like the next evolution of work that we need to do on ourselves.
And I think as well, if you did drink alcohol in that moment where you were feeling sad, feeling upset, maybe you felt maybe out of control because you couldn't do anything about at least being in hospital, and you felt just, probably out of control. All the alcohol would have done is temporarily numbed the pain and probably amplified it the next day when you woke up.
Yeah, because it's depressant, right?
Yeah.
And now it's been added in the wrong context.
Exactly.
So there's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine when you have your first child or whatever the context is. But it's like it's being used in society for the wrong things. But then it's also used on a counter side, which is used for the right things, or used for, so it's the commiseration, congratulations, all different spectrums. So I just think it was interesting to observe. And I don't know, I just think I have much more of a addictive personality than I thought I did. Yeah. In a negative way, right? Which is you mentioned about the control. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was like a lot of the things that I have or that I've built have been out of control. You know, I've left my job, I've built a business, I've done this. I can control my release schedules and my travel schedules. So when something breaks that chain, that's what takes the effect in the inner game.
And it hurts and it makes you feel scared.
Yes, but I've controlled that for, let's say, business. Because knowing that business is an infinite game, it's ongoing, or with fitness. It's like, yeah, you had the pizza, it's fine, just get back and train tomorrow. but it's like they're the low level, like level 1 problems. But then when you have like a bigger problem, that's when you get a bigger pullback.
Yes.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
It's like the tremors of an earthquake. It's a stupid analogy. The small ones you're not going to feel, but the bigger one can rock the entire foundation. And that's kind of an interesting observation, because I've had a couple of, like, as you guys know, like catastrophic shit happen to me, especially this year. 20, you mentioned about good things, bad things happening to you, and like bad things were coming. Bad things are always coming, but it's all about in the context. So 2023 for me was up and up and up, and we were growing a business. And now like things have gotten a lot harder. Big issues have happened. Personal issues have happened. And it's more about like how you react to it. And to your point, that's so cliche to say like how you react to it, but it's almost like when you think through an infinite lens, you anticipate problems because you know they're coming.
Yeah.
But now, because the consequences can be so severe, you need to be like kind of a bit more well-equipped.
This is the point.
Are you an entrepreneur who wants to build your influence and authority online? You may have tried some of the hacks and tricks, but none of it has worked. And it makes sense. 90% of podcasts don't make it to episode 3. Of the 10% that are left, 90% of them don't make it to episode 20. That's where Voix comes in. Voix creates, manages, and grows your podcast for you on your behalf. If you've not been getting leads, not been growing consistently, you haven't found your tribe, and you don't know what to do, Voix is the answer. Don't just take our word for it. In the past couple of years, we've managed over 35 podcasts. We've also been able to generate over 55 million views with 500 episodes produced. And not only that, generating over $1 million for our clients in products, services, and sponsorships. So if you want to learn more about how you can build a great podcast and have it fully managed for you, schedule a call with me at Voix, and we will help you achieve your podcast goals.
Going deep. This is literally the point of life. And it seriously is, man. And a lot of people, here we have like the Abudians who are like, love and light, brother. And like, they kind of dissociate from this reality. Though, in my opinion, I mean, that's a bold statement to say this is the point in life. In my opinion, what I see a lot of like these go wrong here is that you kind of escape reality through spirituality. And what actually is spiritual is what is right in front of you. That is the spiritual path. And look, we all come down, whatever the fuck is going on here, we all come down, and we come down in a fucking mess. Our parents are fucked up. No one has parents who are like perfectly able. We then take on their nervous system. Like if your dad's really like worries and your mum worries, when you're a kid, you literally match their nervous system. So because you match their nervous system, this is how you show up in your day-to-day life. So let's say I'm now like a warrior. I will now produce results in physical reality that reflect back to me that that's some work to do. Because I'm worrying, that's now my work. And this is what I think like it's been a really helpful thing for me to like understand over the last few years. It's like the work you need to do is literally right in front of you. And people kind of get caught on like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to have this huge goal. And there's a great quote from a guy called George Gurdjieff, and he says, people focused on the impossible to avoid doing the possible. And that's what I see a lot here. People focus on the impossible, the huge goals, the things, like talk about their vision, all of this, rather than doing the work that is right in front of them. And the work, whatever it is today, there is something that you can do which will force you to move to the next level. It might be that phone call that you haven't made and you know you need to make it. And you just do that and you pull on that thread and then you solve it. And like, for me, this is part of like, my message moving forward as well. It's like, there's a lot online with kind of like this big goal stuff and all of this. And it's like, actually, the work you need to do right now is the shit that is right in front of you. And you already know what it is if you can spot it.
It's the stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable, even thinking about it. And like, something happened to me and Cindy last week, which is personal. It's not extremely dramatic. We didn't lose anyone that we loved or anything like that, but it was quite significant, and it upset both of us. And Cindy immediately wanted to let's go and get some beers and cry in the hotel room. And I was like, no. And again, I'm not trying to control Cindy, but I was like, let's not have beers. Let's not get a pack of cigarettes. Let's just sit with it and think about it sober and be aware of it and think about, let's just take this bad moment and just sit with it and not numb it with alcohol. And Cindy was like, no, I definitely want to have beers. And I'm like, no, let's honestly just sit with this moment. It's a bad moment, and let's be sober and let's just deal with it.
Mate.
One thing to look at too is like what you're tolerating. James Kemp said this to me. I didn't really think about this beforehand, but it was like, what are you tolerating in your life, your business, whatever? I don't want to speak for other people, but he went through a divorce and his 2 children. and now he was tolerating, let's say, like maybe a relationship or whatnot that he had to bring to an end, and as a result of that, he calls it like world building. He builds a world that he wants, which is fit, healthy, doing MMA, doing boxing, whatever, taking care of his kids. And then he builds the world around it. So let's say if it's a shitty client or if it's alcohol, whatever, it's like, what is that thing that you're tolerating? It could be a family person, it could be a parent, it could be a friend, but you have your own choice. And this is where Hormozy got it really right in the beginning with his message, because people take his like family advice, like, you know, some people hate it, some people love it. I'm a big advocate for it, which is like, you don't need to tolerate shit. If someone's not respectful for you, you can cut them, you know? That can be a friend, it can be a whatever. And it does show up in you mentioned about the worrying, right? It's a projection of where you are or what you're doing. And it's about setting that worldview. And that's what I'm really, really serious on now. Something doesn't go well, we can remove it, right? Because people will suffer in silence or live a quiet life of desperation instead of solving that problem. But it's usually only a few things you're tolerating.
Yeah, and I also have to give a big shout out to Joel and Mike. Is in that moment where you were sad driving back from the hospital, it would have been nice maybe if you did just call a friend and talk to them about it, and then maybe you wouldn't have even thought about the alcohol. Because I think even in building a business now, you've brought Tom on. I think even though Joel built the back end and then didn't really have any responsibilities, I think doing hard things with a friend or with someone that you like or someone that you trust or someone with more experience than you, even if you have to give them a slice of the pie or whatever, just doing it with someone, doing the hard things with someone else can make it so much easier and even more enjoyable. And I think that's why having a good network of friends is what I've learned has been the thing that's helped me more than anything in the world.
Can I ask you both a question on that? So both of you guys are in relationships, right? Okay, I'm single over here. I've recently kind of found out that I have, the way I experience love, I did a bit of kind of memory regression with someone who I trust. And basically the way I feel safe to love is when I'm on my own, because I feel safe and I feel secure, which is why I don't, like relationship-wise in the recent years, I haven't let people too close. And it's also what has ruined other relationships is I'm not fully open. Now, I feel safest when I'm like on my own, because I feel like in control. But that's not good if you want to have like like a partner. Now, in terms of like having relationships as you're both building, I just want to like know what did you, when you guys like met and when you were like being serious about this relationship, it's like a long-term thing, like what did you look for? What made you think like, right, this is someone who I can build with as well? And I definitely have a tendency where I'm like, I'm just going to do all my own shit and then I'll just pick someone. I'll just get across the line and I'll just pick someone. And I would know that I would rather have someone that I can build with. And that would mean more to me, who's been there in the ups and downs. And so I'm curious, like, what you both kind of found when you kind of met your partners and you were like, right, I'm going to build with this person.
I'll quickly go first just because, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that's very self-aware that you've realized this, because I have many friends and I know I've listened to so many podcasts, and as exactly what you said, they're going to do all the work, they're going to build the business, they're going to achieve all their goals, and then they're going to pick someone, which I think is honestly quite sad. Like,
Same.
I think it's such a luxury to have someone to build with. And I think, like, you hear Andrew Tate, you hear all these guys saying like, oh, I'm going to get a wife and then she's going to live in the other house and I'm going to live in this house. And then like, I honestly think that's bullshit. Like, I think you just need to find someone that you can trust and that loves you and you love them and will support you. And you're going to be twice as powerful with someone on your side rather than you doing all the work, you doing all the suffering, and then you get your wife out of her other house when you want to enjoy those. Like, I think that's completely wrong. So I think it's so important to, I don't know, it's hard to, I don't think you should go out looking for someone. I don't think you should ever go out with the intention, right, I'm going to find a relationship. I think people will eventually come to you, but I think being very self-aware with exactly what you've just said, I know so many people who have that mindset. I'm going to build, I'm going to work, I'm going to get the best physique, I'm going to make $1 million business, and then I'll find a girlfriend. But I think it's so much more enjoyable to endure the process with someone that you love and that and build it together. It just makes it more special. Like everyone says in life, human connection is, that's why we're here, is to connect with other people and to have interactions and share emotions and share everything. Like I'm the opposite to you. I don't like being alone. I don't like doing things alone.
Yeah.
But I just think it's makes everything so much easier for me. And I just wish more people would be more self-aware like you and realize that you don't have to, there is no right time.
Yeah.
Like you'll always just continue pushing people away because you're not ready. When if you could just be more honest and more vulnerable and allow someone to come in, and they might not be the right person for you, but they might add something, that ideas and concepts that you haven't thought. Do you know what I mean?
Can I give an example from my scenario? So I think it's the polarity, like feminine, masculine put together. So when I met Elise, I was living in Dublin, working in consulting, like 9 to 5, so shit. She's super feminine, like chill, relax, takes care of dogs, whatever. I'm the opposite, which is much more like driven, goal-oriented. When I met her, she didn't even know what consulting was. She didn't even know what the word meant or whatever. She was like, cool, I'm just backpacking, whatever. And immediately I wasn't looking for a relationship. We just came across each other and we immediately got on. And I think within a week, subconsciously, I knew I wanted to marry her because it was the to and fro, the balance, the bouncing. It's not like, oh my God, balance. It's more just the balance of a relationship, like the ebb and flow. And as time went on, like we did long distance for the first like 6 months. So the first 6 months of a relationship, she was in America and I was in Ireland. And she was seeing the cracks in what I was doing. So I was in consulting, I hated it. She was like, if you don't like it, do what you want to do. And I went up working for Revolut at the time. I was early in the company, early-ish. And then she put that idea in my head. And I was minus $5,000 in debt when I had met her. And she was like, well, if you want to get out of that, you could just do something else, right? And I wouldn't have thought through that frame because I was so used to like, get promoted, do this, right? And then we eventually, when we did say we wanted to live together, because she was American, I was Irish, we couldn't do it in Ireland. So we thought, where could we go? Maybe Mexico, maybe Thailand, maybe Dubai, maybe Greece we were looking at. And then we settled on Bali. And during that process, she was seeing things that I wasn't seeing. So we were having these conversations around a kitchen table. And she was like, why don't you start a podcast? And she was the one that put that idea in my head. And then during the process too, when I was living in Singapore and I was working for Revolut, I hated it. I was working 16 hours a day. The podcast was going well. And she was the one that said, maybe you could build a business around the podcast. And I was like, oh, no, everyone says that, this is the way it is. And then vice versa. I remember her in my apartment in Dublin crying, saying that she had no skills. And I was like, what are you talking about? She had built like a bunch of like Instagram pages and stuff like this when she was younger. And she loved wildlife. And I was like, why don't you do something in the animal area? So I saw that in her. And then we went down the dog route as a result. And even here, when we started the charity here, we were rescuing the dogs. I was taking the photos on my Sony camera. She was taking care of the Instagram. And then I kept building. And then she went off and ran it herself. So it's always been that balance back and forth. And even when we're doing podcast tours, I prefer that when she's there, because I like that when we're recording like this all day, we can go chill in a restaurant and just talk about dogs. So it's like that bouncing back effect. And therefore that pushes me further as a result, because when I'm not grinding, we're chilling. And then also I'm also grinding because of the relationship. So I've said this to you before that I actually work better when I'm actually with Elise on my own. So whenever I'm in Dubai, if I'm in an apartment on my own, I'm just like on Instagram and I'm working on Instagram, right? Whereas when I'm with her, I'm like, subconsciously, I can see that like, this is the future. I want to take care of her. That's part of her masculine and feminine. She doesn't need to work. She can work if she wants to. She doesn't want to work, by the way. She doesn't want to work. She wants to play girl and just play with dogs. So I help her in that pursuit. She helps me in my pursuit. And even today, when I was going out, I was like, okay, we need to be gone in 12 hours time. Can you just put a few things together in a backpack? And she's like, yeah, perfectly fine. So that's moved us towards a goal, okay? But this is the kicker. During the process of minus $5,000 in debt and where we are now, she's never viewed me differently because of what I've built and vice versa. I don't view her as like a fucking Instagram person with dogs. So it hasn't changed her views of me and vice versa. It's still the core tenets. We like to travel, we like to have fun, we like animals, and we like eating and talking shit and just doing weird stuff. So the core foundations never changes. And even when I was going to move to Dubai, she was like, cool, if you got to spend 90 days at Dubai a year, it could help us more. So whatever the goal is, she's kind of there behind. Now, if I was to flip that and make a ton of money and go to Dubai and find some chick from Russia, well, she could be coming with the wrong intentions. I could be going to her with the wrong intentions. Similarly, I could be trying to find the hottest girl because I'm a millionaire. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I'm attracting the wrong person because I'm chasing that. Because let's say someone who waits to be in a relationship, well, now you're attracting all the girls who waited to find the rich guy. So they waited and now you waited and now you're in this toxic, awful relationship. Whereas like me and Lisa are just completely chill, you know? And it's not comfortable. If anything, it's the opposite, you know? Because I'm trying to get better for her and she's trying to get better for me. And like, I'm teaching her about fucking funnels and then she's teaching me about different things too, you know?
I think it's really nice. I think it makes it so much more enjoyable and more special. And like, I also like Cindy, me and Cindy disagree on a lot of things. And now I kind of pay attention to what she disagrees with and I listen and I take it on board. And I think I've become a better person. Like even me and Cindy had to go and have a difficult conversation with whatever happened in our personal lives last night. And I was dreading this horrible conversation. That's why we left Thailand to come here and have this conversation so we'd get answers to what happened. And I was dreading that conversation ever since the meeting and the time was set. I was dreading it. But I kept telling myself, I know after this conversation, I'm going to feel so much better and we're going to hopefully have some closure and blah, blah, blah. And Cindy was the one striving. We have to go to Bali now. We have to go and have this conversation. We have to sort this. Whereas the old me or me on my own, I might have just ran away and left it and tried to cover it over. And Cindy pushing me into uncomfortable situations. Again, going sober was me and Cindy decided to do that together and it changed my life. So I think it's good to have someone who, like, have a girlfriend who supports you, but also have a girlfriend who isn't licking your ass and telling you that everything you're doing is right.
And calls you out in your shit, right?
Exactly. It's so important.
And it's important to recognize, so I'll give you an example there. So my like logic towards a lot of things is like work harder. You've seen that as well, right? It's just like, not work harder, but it's like confront the demon that's in front of you. When it's to do with work or whatever, right? Just go do that. And when I observed with Elise in the early days, if she was upset about something, I'd be like, just sort it. But then I was like, just do it. But then you realize that not everyone is the same. And the fact that she is the polar opposite of me in that regard, I had to come to her with a different approach, a more of an empathetic approach and whatnot. So I was learning that. I'm still learning that. And that even showed up in my business, how I approach clients. Because like if someone doesn't do something that we need them to do, I'm like, for fuck's sake, just do it. But I'm learning through that lens. So if I didn't have that exposure, I would just be the shell of a human in Dubai in a massive apartment and be like, just fucking make the funnel. So it gives you another vertical, basically. And I spoke to Rob about this on Monday. In his content framework, he has his relationship and they're getting married and he's documenting that process because people are seeing him evolve and they trust him more and so on and so forth. So that's a second, third, fourth order of consequence. So I think absolutely, because think about it this way. If you're trying to like optimize your life, well, you're still going to be a human. You're still going to be on Tinder. And God forbid you're going to be going down the escort route, which is what a lot of people do, right? So you're going to search for that no matter what.
Well, they're searching for connection.
Exactly. So when they become wealthy, they just pay for it, right? And that's just the reality. Whereas those buffer hours, no one can work 24 hours a day. So that extra hours within a day is filled with something that's valuable. You know, and like now since Elisa's sick, we're just like chilling at home, you know? I'm getting up super early, I'm working, getting back from the gym super early. And then if we do have downtime, we're literally watching Netflix, dude. And I rewatched Breaking Bad, by the way. It's fucking better. Awesome. It's better the second time around. Nice. But it's an interesting observation, right? Because you do have time for this. There's time for everything. Going to the gym, whatever. It's all about how you allocate the time within the relationship and show up in the relationship. And again, we go back to being a leader of the house. Like, I think the masculine should be the leader of the house, and not from like a dominance perspective, but I mean, he should lead his family, lead his people in his house. So when Lise was sick, I took it on myself to lead the family in that regard, which is we need this done, we need that done, we need our cleaners to come in more, vice versa, whatever. And people are looking for that leadership role too, especially when they don't have it. And I'll give you the counter argument. If someone is like super insecure in themselves, they don't know why they're in a relationship, they're kind of chasing girls, they're being a nice guy, well then no one is leading, right? And leading is not dominance. It's creating a circle of safety that people can act themselves within that regard. And that's what I'm doing within our company too. You've all probably maybe seen. When I was younger and I was hiring people, I was like, just fucking make the funnel, just do this. Whereas now I'm trying to put people in their best position to act themselves, to try their stuff. And I'll give you an example. We have a new designer and he's amazing. And he's always looking for, he's like, is this right? Is that right? I'm like, dude, I'm putting you in your best position to go do what you want. And he loves it. He's trying new stuff and so on and so forth. So taking that example, when you bring that into your relationship, you can try different things. You can be yourself. You can have new goals. And if someone is in that circle of safety, they're going to elevate you in that path.
And it's also good you become less selfish because you have to consider someone else. So before I do something, I consider how is it going to affect not only me, but also Cindy. So I also think that's a good thing as well, is to become less selfish, and that I'm doing this because this is going to benefit me. You can't always think like that for your entire life. It's nice to consider someone else as well.
So our society is now built off a me society, whereas before it used to be a we society. So back in the Depression era, where it was like 1930s, 1940s, no one had the resources. So it was we. How do we use what we have in the home? You know, people generally didn't make much money. Whereas then the boomers, they had access to technology and computers and so on. So it was we, how can I consume as much as possible? Sorry, me. And then that really escalated the past 20, 30 years, which is why people are like, I'm not getting in a relationship, I'm not going to have children, from a selfish perspective. Whereas like the best thing you can do is have responsibility. Now you don't need to have kids to have responsibility. When I got my first dog with Elise about 3 years ago, I was like, fucking hell, we have this dog now that we need to take care of. And that sense of responsibility meant that when I got back from the gym and if Elise was sick, I need to feed the dogs, I need to make sure they walk and so on and so forth. So now Elise doesn't ask me to do it. But if I wake up in the morning and she can't get out of bed, I'll just bring the dogs for a walk, you know, and there's fucking 4 of them, you know, and it's like taking that leadership responsibility.
I had a friend say this to me who was like, because it's the quote, the Spider-Man quote, it's like, with great power comes great responsibility. And he said, no, that's not how it is. It's like, choose great responsibility and then you get the power, because you have to step up to have the power. And reflecting both of what you've just said there, you're choosing the responsibility and that's making you more powerful.
That's also another thing with the Creator Club as well, which now I have 120 people who are looking up to me directly, and I can't just be a degenerate like how I used to be. I have to actually be available and be my best for all of these people. And that is a lot of responsibility, which now I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be responsible and to be someone who these people respect and look up to. And I have to be myself.
A year ago, if someone said to you, now you'd have a business with 120 people you're responsible for, you'd be like, I don't want it.
Exactly.
But you grew into it because as more members joined, you stepped up, you realized I had to speak in a certain way, show up in a certain way. So it's like elastic. Now, I don't have children, but people say that's the case with children, is that when you have a child, you obviously don't know what you're doing, but you figure it out in that regard. It's like a business, you know, when you start bringing people on, or responsibility or payroll, you know, that's one thing that I used to be fearful of. It's just a mindset thing. Like when I was much more finite mindset, I would think, Jesus Christ, how can I pay these salaries and do this? Whereas now I'm like, I'm making decisions now that will have second, third order of consequences 4 or 5 years from now, you know, which is where we've changed direction. And I'm doing so much back end stuff that most people will not see in the front end. You know, and I often say that to the guys as well, because I don't see them half the time. I show up and I'm like, this is all the shit that I'm doing so that we have this in 4 years' time. You know, and I think that's that decade-long thinking. That's, I guess, what a family is, right? Is that you're thinking 10, 20, 30 years ahead. But most guys are not thinking that, and they do something retarded. They think with their dick. They go the wrong direction. They find the wrong partner. They build the wrong business to get 10K a month. It's all about what games you're playing. But everyone's playing a game. So what game are you playing?
That was awesome.
Are you open to?
Yeah, I've started pursuing like going on a few more dates, and people who I'd usually be like, no, I'm not gonna bother. I'm being like, okay, hey, I'll just go on a few dates, and yeah, started like seeing a few people that way. It's been nice. Also, a bit of advice I got as well, and it's like, don't chase the butterflies. That's actually not a good sign. If you get like the butterflies, you're actually trauma bonding. So if you,
What's a butterfly?
like if you get like the spark, like the excitement, it's like, oh, we just fell madly in love. That for a long-term partner, that's not actually a good move. It's not a good move to make like a huge decision like that. All from like, oh, it's just how we make each other feel. We fall head over heels in love. It's like, actually, if you want to build with someone long-term, look for someone who you can actually maybe not become friends with, but you get to know over a longer period of time, and don't necessarily look for the butterflies and the just crazy, like falling head over heels in love. Look for like it's building the relationship slowly. And when you get the like, the butterflies or like the we just fell in love and spark, it's actually pointing towards like the trauma you have, and you basically you trauma bond with someone and you match each other's trauma, and then you trauma bond, and then that will come up in the relationship. But it feels safe and comfortable, which is why we feel the spark, is because we're like, I recognize this, and my shit is going to fit perfectly with your shit, and it's going to feel familiar, which is why what I'm experiencing as love. But actually, like what you kind of want to look for is like not necessarily like you want to be attracted to someone, of course, but like the whole kind of head over heels in love thing is maybe not the best approach when picking like making a huge decision like that.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
It's a very good point to finish on, and also I will put my hand up and plead guilty that me and Cindy definitely fell in love like that. And it's exactly how we fell in love. But now I think that we've been through everything that we've been through together. Now we are building something like really special, I feel. And that's all because of the changes that I've made and Cindy's made. And yeah, I think if a relationship does start like that, obviously it can go two ways, obviously. But if you work together and you consciously work together and you do love each other and you want the best for each other, then I think it can lead to more beautiful things.
It's the evolution, right?
Yeah.
So just mentioned it comes in seasons. You've the season of like lust and attraction, and then the next season then is like validating, are you a good partner? And then you're building something new as a result. Just like anything, right?
yeah.
So it goes back to the foundations. But yeah, man, this was sick.
Enjoyed
I
the
could
chats,
literally
yeah.
Thank you, boys.
on the nicotine and the coffee, I could go another 2 hours. But I know you got to run.
I was literally floating above this microphone for a little while.
You're back in your body now.
Yeah, man, it's like the first menthol.
Yeah, so good.
It's like your first cigarette ever.
But by the way, the reason I asked for this conversation is I knew I was coming to Bali. I knew I wanted to see Darren, I knew I wanted to see Tom. And I really look up to both of you.
Appreciate it, man.
Like, I really, really do. I think you're both so wise and intelligent. And it's not that I came here wanting to gain something from both of you, but I always feel like I gain so much from just being in the same room as you two. So
It's the power of the pod too, right? Like, this is why podcasting is so sick. This is something you can sit down. We're like, yeah, we wanted to meet. You're under time pressure.
no phones.
Yeah, let's just chill. Literally just chill and just chat.
It's so good. And like, also like, we didn't meet up and go for a coffee before this or have lunch or dinner. We just have been away from each other for, obviously you two have been together, but I've been away for a little while. We come together and have a conversation like this. And
But even we don't spend that much time because we're living so far away from each other. But just in general too, right? Like if we were going to the gym, we're in the gym, we're going for food. Whereas this is a good way to like put away the distractions, focus on the conversation.
yeah, and listen to each other.
Yeah, and also help other people, right? We go back to the beginning of like Elise prompting me to start a podcast. We were doing these style conversations at the dinner table.
And I think we need to just have more of these conversations because I really, really enjoy them. I hope everyone watching enjoys them too.
I appreciate you both. You're both legends. Yeah.
And we should
Thanks,
do bigger
boys.
ones too, man. Like I've been trying to plan it for ages. I was actually going to ask you to bring Joel, but
Well, I'll be back in probably a month in October.
I'm back in October too.
Yeah, Joel will be here in a month. So
Nice.
we'll do a big...
Oh, he's not here now?
No,
Okay.
He's in Miami.
What's he doing now?
I don't know. So yeah, we'll get, like, I just like having these conversations. It's really nice. It's
Yeah.
a nice thing to do. So thanks, boys.
Appreciate you. That was fun. Enjoyed it, man.
Cheers,
That
boys.
was
Some of
sick,
these-
man.